Before we get into the episode, I am thrilled to announce that the EntreMD Business School is open for enrollment. The EntreMD Business School is the only school of its kind for physicians who want to build 6, 7, and multiple 7-figure businesses. Over the last 2 years, we have had hundreds of doctors go through the school with unbelievable results. Some of them run brands, some of them run private practices, some of them are coaches, some have other kinds of service-based businesses or product-based businesses. And we've had people come in and cross the 6-figure milestone, cross the 7-figure milestone, cross the multiple 7-figure milestone. You will be in a place where you'll get the coaching, the community, the accountability that you need to thrive as an entrepreneur, especially in the times that we're in. So maybe you've been following me for a while. Maybe you've been getting so much out of the EntreMD podcast and you've been wondering, how can I work with Dr. Una and the community more? Well, this is your chance. Come join us in the EntreMD Business School. It is application only. So go to entremd.com/business to turn in your application. I cannot tell you how many doctors have made statements like this. I recovered my investment in the first week. I recovered my investment in my bank account in the first 90 days. This is the best investment I've made in myself ever. I want you to have that kind of story, not just a story of building a great business that serves a lot and earns a lot, but having a business that gives you the freedom to live life on your terms. So don't wait any longer. entremd.com/business. And now for the episode. Hi, docs. Welcome to the EntreMD podcast, where it is all about helping amazing physicians just like you embrace entrepreneurship so you can have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on your terms. I'm your host, Dr. Una. Well, welcome to another episode of the EntreMD podcast. Thank you so much for being a listener. I love being able to come to your car, or your living room, or in your dresser, wherever you listen to this podcast every week, to give you the tips and the tools and the inspiration that you need to be a successful entrepreneur. So thank you. All right. And if you've written me a review, thank you so much. If you haven't, I would love for you to head over to iTunes and leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. All right. Okay. So I get amazed when I talk to physicians and they're really brilliant and they have great business ideas and they have a passion to help people and they have something stopping them. And it's this thing of, I'm afraid of putting myself out there. And I can understand that, right? Because that was me. I'm not an expert, so who am I to start this kind of business, or who am I to do videos, or who am I to put a message out there? I don't really believe in myself. I don't really believe in what I have to offer. I just have, imposter syndrome on steroids. And I hear this a lot. And if any of that resonates with you in any way, then this episode is just for you. Okay? Now, I want us to look at how unfair it is for you to hold back. I can understand you holding back because that was me, right? I was not going to put myself out there. I definitely was not going to do video. I wasn't going to come out and say, this is an amazing business. You should come to my business. I wasn't going to do any of that, right? Because I couldn't, right? But I want to share with you in the private Facebook community for the EntreMD Facebook community, I had said, hey, we're about to hit our 6-month anniversary and I want to showcase what you guys think about the EntreMD podcast and all that stuff. And I had people, leave comments of how it's helped them in their businesses and all of that stuff. And the comments started coming in and it was so heartwarming. I was almost in tears. I was so humbled by what people said. And there's so many, I couldn't even pick a favorite, but I just picked one, okay? And this was from Dr. Babalola. And she said, big shout out to you, Doc. And she said, I love how you celebrate all your wins, big or small. I don't know where to begin on how much of an impact your podcast series has had on me. You deliver valuable and timely nuggets daily in such a remarkable way. It's interesting that even if I've heard the pearls before, you have a unique way of conveying the message to create an aha moment. Being a perfectionist, I delayed delivering on my calling to a wider audience. But you said, just do it. Seek progress, not excellence. So I started my Facebook Live series as my first step because you prompted me to do so. Kudos to you, Dr. Una, on staying true to your mission and having a heart to help others. Congratulations on your 6-month landmark. Wishing you many more ahead. And there were so many stories like hers. Thank you so much, Dr. Babalola, for sharing this. You have me all in my feelings now. It was so many stories of first. Like, I knew I was supposed to do video to grow my business. I was so afraid to do it. And I listened to a podcast episode and I did it that day. Another doctor is like, my business has grown immensely and I was able to take it all online when the pandemic started and I'm doing so well and all that stuff. People talking about pivoting their businesses and people like, I had a different approach to business growth. And it was so many great things. But you know what? When I started the podcast, I had that thing of, wow, you mean like put myself out there? Right? I could have thought, or I could have let this thought stop me, like, but there are many other people who help people in business who are doing amazing stuff. I mean, they even have thousands of reviews, which translates to millions of listeners and downloads and all of this stuff. Why should I come speak? Am I the expert in business? But remember, at this point, I'm 10 years into my journey as an entrepreneur. So I've learned a few things. I've learned that I have an audience. I've learned that I have people that need to hear me and my perspective. I've learned that I have things of value. I may not be like somebody else, but I'm still a person of value. I've learned that I am on this earth to solve problems. I am here to help people. I am not the only reason I'm alive. Okay? So let me tell you the story about how this podcast started. Because as in November 1st of 2019, I had no thought that I was going to start a podcast. None whatsoever. Right? So we walk into November and somewhere day second, third, I was like, wait, we can do a podcast and in all of this stuff and get a consistent message out, once a week and people can listen to it in their cars and this will be great. And I did a poll in one of the groups. I was like, what would you guys prefer? YouTube videos, podcasts, blog? And it was so shocking that 95% of my audience said they wanted a podcast. And I'm like, wait a minute. I've been doing all these videos for you guys and you really appreciate podcasts more? So November 9th, so this is a few days later, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast. November 10th, the very next day, recorded the intro and the outro. Did I have the AT100 Audio-Technica microphones and, the Rode Podcaster and all these things? No, I didn't. I did it on my iPhone and used the earbuds that come with the iPhone, right? Because I have learned it's not about perfection. It's about progress. Okay. So I was like, I'm going to do it excellently, which means I'm going to do it the best I can with the resources I have, and then I'll keep making it better. So then November the 12th, which was 3 days later, I recorded the first 4 episodes. Same thing on my phone, earbuds, and the memo app on my iPhone. And then November the 15th, it was approved on iTunes. And less than a month after that, we had our first 1,000 downloads. So I could have said, I'm not the expert because I am not the smartest business person in the world. I just am not. I could have said, I'm afraid of putting myself out there. And I'm an introvert. So putting myself out there is not the most exciting thing I do, but it's something I have to do because my plan is to die empty. And what I mean by that is by the time I go, I would have done everything I'm supposed to do, right? The realization of that keeps me in check. Okay. So I was not the expert at podcasting. I mean, I had to read a lot of blogs to figure out like, wait, how do we do this? How do we do that? How do we upload this? How do we do, what's the right way to do show notes and all of that kind of stuff? And, I binged on Buzzsprouts, their blog and all that stuff. And shout out to them. They have like really great support for new podcasters and stuff like that. So what kept me going? What made me go like, you know what? I'm going to do this. Even though I have to study a lot more to figure it out. I have to learn a new skill. I have to add this to my already busy schedule and all that. What kept me going? You did. You did. I thought of the people I could help. I thought of the people who are like, I really want to start a business. I don't know where to start from. I really want to start a business, but I don't think I can do it. I really want to start a business, but I have no business experience and nobody in my family has done business. I really want to start a business, but I am your girl. You're the one that keeps me going. You're the one that keeps me learning. You're the one that keeps me striving for progress. You're the one that keeps me striving for excellence. You're the one. So when I'm reminded of my deficiencies, I refuse to focus on them. I refuse. I choose instead to focus on who I am called to help. That's what I choose to focus on. Think of it like a mother. What mother has a baby and hits her chest and is like, I got this? No. We're like, oh my gosh, now I'm responsible for this life. Well, what do? We choose progress over perfection because you can't be a perfect mom. You can't be a perfect, if you define it perfection, meaning you have every single thing together. No. But we do our best shot. We do what we must. We learn what we must. We build new relationships as we must to help. We build team as we must to help. But by all means, we're going to do our best for this kid. We don't focus on ourselves. We focus on the kid. So when you're reminded of your deficiencies, when you're reminded of what you can't do, when you're reminded of the people who are better than you, when you're reminded of all those things, take your eyes off it. Refuse to focus on that. Rather, focus on who you are called to help. So who is your business or your potential business called to help? Think about people who are weight loss doctors. I have some clients that are, and they're really into wellness, and they're like, they think of the pain, the joint pains, the bullying, the depression, the chronic disease, and all that stuff that comes from that. That's what your focus is how can I help this person? And take your eyes off whether your video is perfect. How can I help? Maybe you're so passionate about chronic disease, the hypertension, the diabetes, and you're like, it's not only about the medication is fine, but they need education. They need to know what they can do. Some of them may be able to reverse their disease, but some of them may just be on, a lot less medication that they're on now. Think of them. Think about if you're a pediatrician here and if you're like me and I'm like, oh my God, these parents, they're so frantic. They think they can't help their kids. They're overwhelmed. They're frazzled. I'm going to partner with them and help them raise healthy kids. Think of them. Maybe you're here and your passion is doctors that are, under the burden of student debt and all kinds of debt, and you help them fix their finances. When you want to do that video and you get reminded that you don't have the best camera, you get reminded that you don't have the best light, you get reminded that you're not the best speaker, you get reminded that your last video only had 100 views, I want you to think of that person who's at home, who was asleep, who just woke up in a cold sweat and remembered how much they owe in student loans, remembering that what they now owe is a lot more than what they initially borrowed. You think of them and you do that video. It is unfair for you to hold back. Think about the doctors that are being fired and you can teach them, like I do, to monetize their degrees, to take control of their financial future, to start working for you Incorporated, to start that business, to go for financial freedom. You think of them. You think of their pain. You think of their suffering, and you pay the price to build a successful business. You may not be perfect. Nobody needs perfection. We need progress. I have a client that started working with me just before the COVID-19 whole thing became a pandemic. And she drank the Kool-Aid. And she believed that she could help her practice thrive. She believed that she could promote herself professionally as a physician. And by the time the pandemic hit, she had put herself in a position where she believed that she could thrive, even though there were challenges. She used the strategies I taught her. She used the strategies, and she is building a practice that is thriving in the midst of a pandemic. What if I didn't put myself out there? What if I said I'm not the expert? What if I said I don't know everything? What if I said my website is not perfect? What if I said I don't have the right, lead magnets and opt-in pages and my mailing list is not up to par? What if I said that? And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not for mediocrity at all. I'm for excellence. But excellence doesn't mean you have everything right. It means you're doing the best with what you have. So put yourself out there. Start that business, dream, scale that business, reach out, promote yourself, promote your business, do it. And if you're like, I've made the decision, but I don't know how, then I want to invite you to join us for the Freedom Formula Masterclass. Okay? I want you to make the decision to do that. It's a 12-week program. It's exclusively for doctors. You will get the business education. So you get the direction that you need. You will get the community because you'll be in a group with a bunch of doctors just like you who've said yes, who are putting themselves out there, and who are serving. And you'll be in a space where you can be held accountable, where you can't hide anymore. You can't say, I'm going to do this today, and 3 weeks later, you haven't done it, because others are going to be doing it and others are going to be looking for your stuff. I want to invite you to join us. It's entremd.com/freedom. And you are a podcast listener. And for my podcast listeners, you get 50% off the investment, a whole 50%. You put in the code podcast and it drops it to 50%. Remember, before you were a doctor, maybe you didn't know. Maybe you felt the same way you feel about business now. Maybe you're like, I'm not worthy. Nobody in my family is a doctor. Nobody in my family went to college. These other people are smarter than me. I'm also here, but they're smarter than me and all that stuff. And you had imposter syndrome and all that. But look here though. You made it. And as an entrepreneur, you can make it as well. You just need to be in the right environment. Okay? So join us. Join the Freedom Formula Masterclass. I'd love to have you there. All right? So think of it. Think of people walking up to you, okay? Think of it. This is, 3 months from now, whatever. People are walking up to you and they're thanking you for what you do. They're talking about how you change their lives, like their whole lives. That could be you. I have a client and people walk up to her and like, oh my gosh, I lost the 50 pounds. I'm off my hypertension medication. I'm off my depression, my diabetes medication. You've given me a brand new lease on life. Can you imagine that? Stop holding back. Think of the pain you can be getting rid of for people. Okay. So I want that to be you. So take the step. If that's you, you're like, I'm ready to do this. Sign up for the Freedom Formula Masterclass. Come join us. Come learn. But whether you join us or not, I want you to leave this podcast episode making the decision that I'm not going to hold back anymore, and I'm not going to focus on my deficiencies. I'm going to focus on the people that I'm called to serve, and I'm going to serve them to the best of my ability. All right? So thank you for listening to this podcast episode. Don't forget to share it, and I'm going to see you next week for another amazing episode. If you love this podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, share, and review it on iTunes. As you go about your week, remember, you're not just an MD, you're an EntreMD. Don't forget to tune in next week for another great episode. Until next time.